I think the Kansas City Chiefs head coach Andy Reid and creepy Joe Biden are the two happiest men in America this week. Michael McLean, brassballsvideos.com. I am an ex-professional hockey coach, ex-amateur championship hockey coach, turned 8-figure entrepreneur. If you would like a free copy of my brand new book, Unfuckwithable, 5 Ways to Unfuck Your Life in the Next 30 Days, the link is below to download the free PDF at brassballsvideos.com. Just a word of warning about that book for all you punch-drunk tomato cans and mush cookies who download the book and then you're so offended. Listen, I wrote this book for champions, not for chumps, for winners, not for whiners. So if winning isn't your sport, don't download that book. So watching a few minutes of the Buffalo Bills, Kansas City Chiefs amazing game this past Sunday, you knew it was going to be an amazing game. I knew the Bills would be ready to go. Nobody deserves the success that the Buffalo Bills are enjoying more so than those great fans in Buffalo. They've been through so much with the NHL team, the Sabres. That team is an absolute disgrace to hockey. Hopefully this year they're finally going to find a way to make the playoffs after over a decade. It's just pathetic. Great football fans, great hockey fans, and great people. I always am cheering for the Sabres and the Bills. You've got a guy in Josh Allen who is the potential MVP, one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the game today. It's really hard to mess that up. But literally, I mean, how many years has Josh been in the NFL, and how many of those years have been pissed away by bad coaching and bad management? So it's great to see the Bills doing so well. The thing I want to talk about is Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs and how he and creepy Joe Biden got to be the happiest guys on God's blue earth this week. This is something that nobody in the media would ever comment on or talk about. They never played the game or they don't understand the game. But I think that for the Kansas City Chiefs, this is exactly what Andy Reid needed. This is exactly what Andy Reid is going to use to propel his team to another Super Bowl. I mean, you have all the normies and the civilians who are jumping up and down that, you know, the Bills beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Fully earned that, and it's going to be a race to the end. But I'm just sitting here going, as a former coach, when your team doesn't lose games, even with the great Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, as a multiple Super Bowl champion, understands that you lose leverage with your players, and you can see it with Kansas City this year. They're winning. They're winning by the skin of their teeth. They have guys like Travis Kelce who are. It's no longer the number one thing. Football is no longer that guy's number one thing. You've got the distraction of the Taylor Swift nonsense, and through it all, Andy Reid is the greatest coach alive today in football. I mean, he's the Nick Saban now of college football. Saban retiring last year, but nobody is more old school than Andy. And he's got his players practicing the right way. He's got them practicing in pads, and literally they find a way to win every week. But Andy Reid, if you sat down with big Andy Reid and you had a beer and a cheeseburger with Coach Reid, and he would never admit this to anybody in the media, but he's going to take this loss and he's going to use it to transform his team moving forward. As a coach, when you don't lose any games, and especially when you win, you're using up a lot of your luck, you're getting the breaks, you're getting the referee calls, and you keep winning. You don't have the hammer with your players. Even a coach as great as Andy Reid. Now he's got the attention of his players. With a loss like this, it's a major wake-up call for your locker room. Sometimes it takes more than one. But there's nothing wrong with the Chiefs losing 2 or 3 games this year. In fact, I believe it's critically important for a team to go through adversity, to go through a rough patch, and to struggle. I'll never forget the first year I coached my Perth Blue Wings team when I took over, and we went 15-0 in our first 15 games, 15 wins and 0 losses. And as a younger coach, I was like, this is amazing. Like, we're just racking up. We're 15-0 and we're only playing 38 games. And that season we ended up 38-4. But it's when we got to the playoffs that I noticed that we didn't have the grit, we didn't have the hunger, we didn't have the stick-to-itness to win a championship. We got to the finals, but we couldn't close it out. And I thought we lacked. I thought one of the things that really hurt us was a regular season of records where I didn't have the hammer. The guys fell in love with themselves. We thought we were better than we were. And no matter how hard I challenged and worked the team and held them accountable, it was like rat poison. Oh, we're 5-0. Oh, we're 10-0. Oh, we're 15-0. And guys on social media, they eat this stuff up. Like your players, they're all watching this, right? And Nick Saban calls it rat poison for a reason. It's like guys start to believe their own headlines. Guys start to believe their own media. And you could see this. I mean, Andy Reid would be talking about this where, getting a shit kicking wouldn't be the worst thing that happened. Now, it didn't come in the form of a shit kicking. They almost pulled another one out. But now Andy has the hammer. Now he can get the video and he can go after some of these guys and challenge some of these guys. And Mahomes is going to be even more driven because that guy is sick to his stomach when he loses. But it's, if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, and this is an exciting win, right? I always was like, that's not the game I wanted to win. I know you're fighting for home field and that's important, but I'm just like, the regular season for really strong teams in any sport should be a dress rehearsal. And I watch you watch any of these championship teams that struggle at the first of the year and they get a little bit better and then they start playing their best at when the playoffs arrive. Those are the teams that win championships. Teams that, it's a dress rehearsal. I'm not in the NHL, you see these teams that win the President's Cup. And that's the best regular season record. And almost never do they win the Stanley Cup. Same thing in the NFL. The Chiefs the last 2 years. They're a team that struggles. They lose some games. As long as they make the playoffs and as long as they have a game or two at Arrowhead Stadium, Andy Reid, all he's concerned about is getting there healthy, getting there so you have home field advantage, and getting there playing your best football. So I think that this has been a very dangerous year for the Chiefs because this is Andy's weakest team. Even with Mahomes, this is his weakest team. It's just, Kelsey's fucking useless. I don't know what you do there. Only Andy Reid could handle this situation. But I think that this loss is incredibly valuable to the Chiefs. If you're the Buffalo Bills or you're the Pittsburgh Steelers or you're any of these teams that think, the Baltimore, how many times are you going to beat Mahomes? And I always say one time, right? You're going to beat Michael Jordan once. You're going to beat Tom Brady once if you beat him once. You're going to beat Wayne Gretzky once. So I always wanted that to be in the playoffs. And nobody's ever going to talk about this. And Andy Reid, of course, coaches to win every game. But sitting there breaking down film this week and coaching his guys, now he's got some leverage. He's like, we're not as good as we thought. And I mean, it would be great if they lost a couple more games, because you don't want to blow your wad in the regular season is basically what I'm saying. And it should be a dress rehearsal for what matters. Nobody gives a shit, who won, the conference or who won the division in the regular season. You got to be ready to go when it matters. And in the playoffs, Mahomes has got to win, 4 games or 3 games. But, I'm happy for the Buffalo Bills and their fans. But you know what? When they play again, and they probably will, is, now you've got Mahomes even more dialed in. You got Andy Reid even more dialed in. You have those players in that locker room that have won at least 2 Super Bowls dialed in. Do you think that they're going to lose 2 in a row? Is it really worth breaking your back to get that home field advantage in Buffalo? Maybe it is. But I just think that, for Andy Reid, this is like, he'll look back on this and say, losing to those guys was the best thing ever. You see this a lot in the Olympics in team sports, in hockey and in basketball, where they're in the round robin in the beginning. And I've seen this with Team Canada where, they got to beat Team USA, or they got to beat the Russians, or they got to beat the Swedes or the Finns, whatever it is. And you never want to be ranked number 1 coming out of there, because once you get to the medal round, it's one or done, right? And I always loved, when I was coaching hockey, for us to be the underdog, where it's like, oh, we lost to that team in the tournament or in the round robin, which didn't matter. And home field advantage doesn't mean much in pro sports anymore. You got to beat who you got to beat. You got to beat the man to be the man. But I remember, they beat us the first time, and it's a huge advantage. It's a huge advantage because they used their win then, and then there's no pressure on you when it really matters, and you can beat them when it counts. And that's what Andy Reid will be thinking. That's what Mahomes will be thinking. They'll be like, you know what? They beat us last time. And then the media carries the ball for these guys, right? They puff up the Bills, or they puff up Pittsburgh, or they puff up the Chargers, whatever it is. Oh, you guys beat the Chiefs last time, or whatever. And none of that shit matters come playoff time. But Andy Reid, he's happier than Joe Biden. The happiest guy in America a couple weeks ago on Election Day was creepy Joe Biden. That guy, he couldn't fucking stand Kamala. Could not stand her. So when that dimwit, she was the absolute perfect candidate for Trump to win in a landslide. That's not easy to do. You need a nitwit competitor like Harris to even have a chance. It's next to impossible for a Republican to win the White House, let alone in a landslide. That's how incompetent and that's how lousy a candidate she was. And Joe Biden, he was just laughing. He was laughing. The way she stepped in there, the way she treated him, it was just like he was the happiest guy in America when Trump ran over her in the election. But another guy who's pretty happy right now, and he'd never say it to you, and he's probably pretty upset after the game, but Andy Reid has enough experience in winning championships that he knows you don't want the path to be perfect. You don't want the path to be easy. You got to go through the adversity. And that adversity, that struggle, that difficulty will serve you when the real games begin. 2 words that changed my life, 2 words that'll change yours. Be relentless.